events in the United States and the horrific shooting, the murder of all of those children, their teachers, the school principal, and we'll talk about the American gun culture. And like anyone with a heart, I have found it very strange watching a lot of telly. I've been watching this channel a lot over the past few days, and it has been heart-wrenching to see. The speech by President Obama today, which I understand was written by him in Washington in the past couple of days and then was working on it all the way until he got up in front of that community in Newtown, Connecticut. And he speaks very directly about the need for America to confront its gun culture. Now, there's a couple of things here. It's difficult for us to understand the gun culture in Australia compared to the United States, but it is enshrined in their constitution. That will not be changing even after a tragedy like this. But as Barack Obama has suggested, perhaps the right to bear arms should be limited to just one gun, not 10, not 20, not assault rifles, not weapons that are used by the military, rather a device where you can defend yourself, defend your property, defend your family, and you don't need a machine gun to do that. And we'll get into all of those debates and the obvious things that you have heard of the past few days, but I also wanted to offer up an observation about the way this story unfolded before our very eyes and something that I thought was so fraught with danger. Whenever there is a tragedy like this, there's the live coverage, there's open microphones, there's reporters sent to the scene to get as many witness accounts as possible. And I tweeted about this in those first hours that I found it very uncomfortable that on live global television, children were being asked about what they saw, what they heard. Did they see violence? Did they see victims? Now, this was all happening live across the world. I wasn't the only one, because when I tweeted it, I got so many responses who agreed with me that this was a really uncomfortable thing to look at. Now, obviously, it is a reporter's job when you go to a scene to get as many witnesses' accounts as possible. This was a tragedy that killed so many children and clearly affected a community of children, being a school. But as a lesson for all of us, is that when tragedies involve children, when live news events involve children, it's one thing to ask kids what happened and what their perspective was, but for God's sake, don't show it on live television. The reporters could have done that, hand-picked which of those children they wanted to put on the air, but to be honest, my view is that reporters aren't helping those kids by asking what did they see, what did they hear. The reason this tragedy has hit so hard and hurts so deep on the other side of the world, in a place like us, is because you can imagine how nervous your children would be. Well, imagine adding to all of that, having to retell the story within a couple of minutes under the stress of a TV camera, under the pressure of a reporter's microphone. I get it. The reporters are doing their job. But I think in part the media didn't do its by showing all of those kids endlessly, live, being asked to recount the worst day of their little lives. If you want to talk to them, fine, but don't do it live. Handpick which bits you decide to put on the air, because it's an extra element of the trauma that, in my opinion, was completely unnecessary. Our thirst to find out what happened and show everything live and be first, it's central in the news business. But when it involves kids, can we just stop for a second and ask ourselves in the business whether it's the right thing to do? Because I don't think it was. A policy that I've had for a very long time about awful, heinous crimes like this. You won't hear me mention the person who is responsible for it. I will not add to their infamy. I will not add to the global notoriety. This person should be wiped from history. The names that we all should know off by heart are the kids, their teachers, and people who worked at that school, who sadly will not see this or any other Christmas.